everyone, it's time for my second vlog in which I'm going to talk about going to the Cannes Film Festival for the first time. And well, what an amazing experience that was. For many years I had wanted to go to the Cannes Film Festival, and I had hoped I would be in a film which would be nominated, even a short film, because there's a thing in Cannes called the Short Film Corner, and I hoped that I would get into something like that, and then I would sort of be eligible to go to the Cannes Film Festival. I really didn't know anything about it, but that's what I hoped for. Anyway, some years passed, and I noticed that some of my colleagues were going to the Cannes Film Festival, and they were in films which had not been nominated or didn't seem to have any official recognition at Cannes, but they were just going. Then I was in a short film called Downsizer that was really very impressive, and I was sure this would go to Cannes. Now, as it turned out, it was just not submitted to the Cannes Film Festival. It simply wasn't a fit for that movie. And so I didn't go, and I ended up asking advice, and I was told that the number of films which are nominated at Cannes are a tiny proportion of the films that are sort of present there. There's the Cannes, the artistic competition, and there's the Cannes, which is the market in which films from all over the world on every genre and subject and budget are being bought and sold. And that basically I could apply to go to Cannes if my IMDb, which is the sort of cinema CV that you have, was acceptable to the organisers of Cannes, and that I could apply for accreditation. So this was in 2016, and I don't know what got into me. I got home from quite a difficult day, and I suddenly thought, I'm going to go to Cannes. And I applied for my accreditation. I filled out the form. I got a letter from my agent. I sent my headshot, which is, at that time, those were the 3 things you had to do. And I just waited a few days, and I was accepted. And I mean, you cannot imagine how thrilled I was. I have been acting since I was a child, but I came back into it fully when I was kind of over 30. So it was quite a long, hard struggle for me to get more credits, build up my showreel, all that stuff. So to be accredited for the Cannes Film Festival was just stunning. And then I thought, oh, where am I going to stay? You know, because I obviously couldn't just turn up in Cannes not knowing where to go. And I didn't have a lot of money. So I looked up lastminute.com or booking.com, one of those websites, for the Cannes dates, and I decided I could maybe afford to go for 3 days, and I put in those criteria, and it came up with flights, cheap flights, and a hotel that I could stay in, and I booked those 3 days, and I was absolutely thrilled. I mean, the most famous person going to Cannes couldn't have made as much preparation as I did. I got the nicest dresses that I could afford. I mean, this dress that I'm wearing, this was one of the dresses that I took to the Cannes Film Festival, and I didn't have much money to spend, but I chose carefully, and I had a lovely evening jacket my mum had made me some years before, and that goes over all my sort of cocktail dresses and things, and I picked out my shoes and my day outfits, and oh, I was just thrilled. And I looked up my hotel, the Kyriad. There were some reviews about it that weren't very nice, but I later discovered it's a lovely hotel, and it's in the La Bocca area of Cannes, which is the industrial part, but it's very good because there's a bus which you can get, a night bus that drops you right outside the Kyriad Hotel, which is really handy if you're going to a late screening. So it was a very lucky for me that I got to go to the Kyriad, and if you see bad reviews about it, it's not fair. It's a very nice hotel. So I had all my clothes ready, I had my makeup and my day outfits, and I looked very carefully through the Cannes schedules, and I decided what films I would really like to see, and I was told all about how you have to queue to go to premieres unless you're impressive enough to be given tickets for the screenings. And obviously my IMDb was not impressive enough for me to be given tickets. So what happens in that situation is that you go to the screening that you hope to get into, if it's a premiere, and you have to queue to get in. And all the press are allowed in, all the invited guests are allowed in, all the people who are sort of important are allowed in, and then the remaining seats are allocated to the people in the queue. And you know, it's a bit brutal, I have to say, but it's sort of idealistic, because you know, if Cannes sold their tickets, then big corporations would buy up all the tickets, and no ordinary people or people who are sort of struggling in the show business like me would have a chance of getting in. They could charge a lot of money for those tickets, and they are actually all free of charge. So that is kind of admirable about Cannes, although when you're queuing for a long time and you don't get into something, it is a bit sad, it's a bit disappointing. However, I digress. I arrived at Cannes on the Sunday evening. I was going to be there from the Sunday evening to Wednesday kind of late afternoon. And I arrived at Nice airport, and I had all the information about how you could get buses, and there were actually no buses available. There were no buses. It was a Sunday night, and even for the Cannes Film Festival, the French bus driving companies do not change their schedule. They're extremely firm on what's what. So I didn't have a lot of money, but I teamed up with a few other people, other filmmakers who also had arrived at that time. And arriving at Sunday evening at Cannes is really not a good plan if you can avoid it. And we clubbed together to get a taxi, and we all took a taxi from Nice to the Cannes Film Festival, and each person was dropped off at the hotel that they were going to be at. And then finally I was dropped off at the Kyriad, and I got there and got to my room. I was elated. And it was really pretty late by then, and I was quite hungry, and I brought with me in my suitcase a whole lot of snacks and tea bags and things I could eat. So I had a few of those, and I realized there was a McDonald's kind of in the neighborhood, but I didn't know where it was. It was pitch dark by that time in Cannes. I had no idea where I was going, so I just thought, well, I'll just have some cookies and things I brought with me, and I'll go to bed, get up early the next day. So I did, and I realised my outfits had got a bit crushed, and the Kyriad lent me an ironing board and an iron, so I ironed my suit that I was going to wear on my first day and put on my jewellery. I'd even planned all my jewellery, and I set off to get the bus into town to get my accreditation, and I was just thrilled. I mean, you can't imagine. It was a wonderful day. The Mediterranean looked beautiful, and oh, it was just great. There were these wonderful pink flowers in the flower beds, and I set off down the road to get the bus. And I walked for a while, and I could see the town ahead of me, and I realised there were no buses going past. And so I asked someone where were the buses, and they said, oh, this is the C road. There are no buses coming down here. You had to go onto the road parallel to this. And I thought, huh. And by that time I was kind of half the way there, and so I thought, look, it's very beautiful, this C road. I will just keep walking and walk into town, and I'll get my accreditation, and if I'm half an hour later, so what? And you know, that was quite something, because I had on these really pretty but quite high-heeled suede strappy shoes. They looked lovely with my outfit. I'll try and intersperse some photos with my film. So I went into town, and oh, the Mediterranean was beautiful, and on the beach at various points along the way into town there were these beautiful sort of cafe restaurant places on the beach, which I think are probably just there for the summertime, and they looked very expensive, and of course I didn't go in. I had been warned in reading about Cannes that a lot of the restaurants are very expensive, and really don't sit down, because it's a big fee even for a coffee or a drink or something. But it was lovely to just see everything and take some photos, and so I just kept going on into Cannes, and I eventually got into the juncture of the city limits, and I walked in, and it started to make sense to me from the maps I'd looked at, and I knew I was going to the Palais des Festivals. No, I was going to the Office of Tourism, because in the basement of the Office of Tourism was where you get your accreditation. Now, your accreditation badge is what you have to have in order to get access to any of the screenings or classes or workshops or the pavilions at the Cannes Film Festival. You literally won't get in without it. Even a famous person or a very famous director will be sent back to their hotel to collect their badge, even if everyone knows who they are, if they don't have it. Now, I remember a few years ago, Julia Roberts appeared at Cannes and went onto the red carpet, and she certainly didn't show her badge to anyone. And I remember she was protesting about the rule about high heels, and she got onto the carpet and took off her heels and threw them away, and it was very dramatic. However, practically everybody else has to have a badge. You have no choice about it. So I stood in line, and it was all very, very organised system. You have to stand in a queue, and the queue takes a while to move because obviously there are many people every day. Even the last day of Cannes, there are people queuing to get their accreditation if they can only afford to go there for one day or a couple of days. So anyway, I queued up, and again, thrilled to be there. It was so exciting. I felt so good. I was seeing these big movie posters everywhere as I'd walked into town, and the adrenaline in the air was just wonderful, and it was so glamorous. I mean, the light of the Mediterranean, it was very jet-setty, and Cannes just looked beautiful. I wonder how I'd have felt if it was pouring with rain. Anyway, it wasn't. And then you went into this room, and there was a carpet with a line on it saying "Arrêtez," and you had to stop there. And when it was your turn, you would be called forward to the desk, and you give them your documents and your passport to prove that you are who you say you are, and then they put your information into the computer, and the computer prints off your badge with your photograph on it and your details. And you were given that, and also a bag of sort of magazines and little gifts and souvenirs that you could keep as a thank you. They've stopped giving you the bag now because I think it's considered to be not good for the the global warming, giving people lots of stuff like this. But they did do it then, and the first 3 years I went to Cannes, they gave you a bag, and it was nice, And I got little notebooks and pens, and all those things were just lovely. I mean, anyway, I got my accreditation. I was absolutely thrilled. And I went up into the Palais des Festivals, and the entrance is full of all these lights. And I thought, I have to get a picture of myself with my accreditation pass around my neck. This is so thrilling. And I stopped this gentleman who was in the foyer of the Palais des Festivals, and I said, "Excuse me, could you take a photo of me with my badge?" And he said, "Yes, of course." And we took photos of each other, and it was great. And I shook his hand, and I got to know him as a friend. I linked up with him on Facebook, and he was the director of a short film called The Kidnapping of a Fish. And he's a lovely gentleman, and we still chat on Facebook. We've never worked together, but still, it was a very happy day, and he was thrilled to be at Cannes like me. I mean, that's something. It's such a long trudge being an actor or being any kind of creative person in the film business. And when you go to Cannes, it's not only good to just meet people and network and things. You feel, I've arrived. I'm somewhere, and it's just great. And as well as being a very beautiful place. So anyway, his name was Philip, and we exchanged cards, because I'd had cards made to come to Cannes, and we went our separate ways. And I was really hungry by this time. I went and I had some lunch, and the day just unfolded like that. I went to the Brit Pavilion. Each country with a film industry has a pavilion at the Cannes Film Festival where you can get sort of drinks or tea and coffee, or sometimes little snacks. And they also have giveaways. And I went to the British Pavilion, and I had a cup of tea. And I bumped into my friends, Ray and Anne, who I'd made a feature film with called Psychomantium, and it was just lovely. And they took me back to the Palais des Festivals after we'd had a drink, and they showed me a place where you could go to the bathroom, which you go through the stage door entrance. And if you're in Cannes and you have accreditation, going in by the back entrance of the Palais through the artist's entrance, the stage door, that there's a bathroom right there, and it's very good to go there, because the bathroom's at the front of the Palais des Festivals, and the entrance of the Palais des Festivals, it's a lot more crowded, and it takes longer to get in there. So that's another little tip that they gave me, and it was wonderful. And then I bumped into the gentleman I shared a taxi with the night before, and he was a Hungarian director called Karl. I'll put up a picture of us together, but he had a picture taken with me as well, and he was very complimentary because I had a camera. I wasn't using my phone, and it was wonderful. And Ray and Anne, my film director Ray Brady, he and his wife Anne, they got me a ticket because they had a higher status than me. They'd been given some tickets, and they gave me a ticket for an early morning screening the next day. And again, just being given a ticket to get in, which means you didn't have to queue. That was so amazing, and I was just thrilled to get that. Anyway, I decided then I was going to go and get changed into this very dress that I'm wearing, and I was going to try and queue up to get into the Colin Firth produced movie Loving, which is about a black lady and a white man in the south of America who got married at a time when it was still illegal, and it's all about the sad and awful circumstances that happened to that couple when they got married, which was strictly speaking against the law, which seems incredible. Anyway, I went back to the Kyriad Hotel, I got changed, I put on this dress and my lovely jacket that my mum had made me and my Diamante jewellery, and I had put on little flat shoes I could put into my evening bag, and I carried my high-heeled silver shoes, and I took the bus back into town. I found the right place to queue to get into Loving, and then quite a nerve-wracking time elapsed while gradually the premiere got underway, because basically you're advised to queue up for a premiere like that if you don't have a ticket at least 2 hours before. And needless to say, you have to have an accreditation to get in that way, and you can't get in without one no matter how long you queue. So I had my accreditation and I was queuing, and I was pretty near the front. I wasn't exactly at the front, and we looked at the red carpet being prepared and all the ushers from the cinema coming out and checking it, and then all the press people took up their positions in the press pens, and then they switch on the music which accompanies the premiere, and all kinds of people who have tickets start arriving and queuing up for the different parts of the Palais des Festivals, because it's a vast cinema. It's huge. And they all started arriving, and I could see from where I was quite a good view of people coming in and going down the red carpet. And I found out later that a lot of people from Cannes are invited, and they get tickets because obviously it's their town and they're hosting the festival, so they have the right to get tickets. And a lot of them arrived, and then other people in the business who again had been important enough to be given tickets, they all came in, and that took quite a long time. And I'd started chatting to some of the other people in the queue and exchanging my business cards with them, and we were all a bit nervous because we really, really hoped we'd get in. And I especially hoped I'd get in because I felt it would be really lucky if on my first time of queuing for a premiere I got in. And we got closer and closer to the film being finished, and then Colin Firth came out and his wife, and then the stars of the film came out, and they played a piece of music called The Aquarium, and they play this when all the stars of a film come to the red carpet at Cannes for a premiere. I'm sorry, I put that really badly. And they play The Aquarium, and everyone pauses, and it's just a moment for them to be on the red carpet and reflect on the fact that they've been nominated for the Cannes Film Festival, and it's a very, very special moment. I mean, if it only happened to you once, it would be absolutely thrilling for an actor to have that experience. It would be wonderful. Anyway, they all gathered on the red carpet, the stars of the movie, and Colin Firth and his wife, and yes, and then they all went in. And then the ushers of the Palais des Festivals came up to us, to the barrier where the people like me were queuing to try and get the last minute seats, other actors, other people in the business. And he sort of looked at us, he looked at our feet to make sure you're wearing elegant shoes, because they don't like you to have on anything that looks scruffy. And luckily I had on my lovely silver shoes, and I'd put my little flat shoes into my evening bag. And he opened the barrier, and he said, "Okay, you," and he looked at me, he said, "Okay, you." And I got in, and we were told to hurry, and they quickly checked our bags, and we were allowed to go up the red carpet. And at the top of the red carpet, I asked someone to take a photo of me, and I was so thrilled. I forgot to take the accreditation off from around my neck, so that didn't look very good. And when I look at that picture now, my makeup looks a bit orange and whatever, but I was just so thrilled. I was so happy. Anyway, I got that quick photo on the red carpet, and that was wonderful. And I'm especially happy because they do not let you have pictures on the red carpet anymore. So that was 2016, so I was lucky to get that. And the following few years I got some pictures on the red carpet, and that was super too. And we were ushered in, and we weren't actually put into the main premiere cinema. We were put into an overflow cinema, which was kind of adjacent to the main cinema where the premiere was being held. But I didn't mind. I was so thrilled that I'd got in, and I'd actually walked on the red carpet, and I'd got a picture, and I was now going to see this amazing movie, because I was sure it would be amazing. And the lights went down, and the film was played, and it was amazing. The film's called Loving, and if you've never seen it, I recommend you to go and see it. It's a wonderful, really powerful film, and the actors and everyone, I'm sure they're very proud of it. And anyway, so the film finished, and we came out, and I think I got a few more pictures of myself in the Palais des Festivals. I'll have to look back and check. And I came out, and I was just elated, and I think I was hungry again, so I got a late night snack in Cannes, because it's warm, it's lovely in the evenings. There are cafes open till quite late, and I think I got a little snack. And then I got the bus, the night bus, back to the Kyriad Hotel, and went to bed feeling on top of the world. I was so happy. And then the following morning, I got up really early. I washed my hair, did my makeup, my false eyelashes, and I put on my day outfit for that day, which I think was a print dress. And I raced along to the Palais des Festivals, and I met up with my friends Ray and Anne, who'd given me the ticket for the early morning screening. And I went to that screening, and I got some more pictures, and you know, it was just a lovely day. And I remember, I think I went up the hill because I had a break between then and between the next film that I hoped to see that evening. It's awful, but I now can't remember what that film was. It might have been, I think on my last night I saw a Cannes Classique movie, but anyway, I went up the hill of Cannes, and I looked at these, looked down at the city of Cannes, and I got a picture of myself with the background of Cannes behind me, and there were some lovely sculptures and a beautiful stone seat there, and there was also a museum with information about the man with the iron mask, and you know, it's all beautiful. And there was really chic little cafes of people having lunch, which again I didn't dare sit at because I was sure I couldn't afford it. I think when I went to Cannes I was very hard up. I had £100 with me. I had no money in my bank account. I did have my card with me, but I don't know why I bothered bringing my card because I had no money in the bank. So I was living on these cookies and on sandwiches and, you know, low-priced meals, but it didn't matter. I was so happy to be there. It was great. And yes, I got those pictures up there, and I came down again. I think I went to the Brit Pavilion again and met up with some more people. And then I got the bus back to the Kyriad. I got changed into my evening clothes again. And that night, I don't think I went to another premiere. I think I did have to queue up, but it was for a not quite such a famous movie. It wasn't a, if it was a premiere, it wasn't for one of the main premieres. It was perhaps a film in the Un Certain Regard category, which is more like indie films which have had a nomination at Cannes, but it's not the enormous premieres of the commercial movies, which is what I'd been to the previous night, and that was wonderful. And then the following day, I think I saw some other films during the day. I queued up and I saw those, and I remember it was very, very hot. And I think actually on my last day, I got to go to a workshop, a master class with William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist, and I had to really queue up for about 3 hours to get into that, and that was really amazing. I mean, I just, to see William Friedkin in the flesh, and he talked about his movies, and he talked about the enormous success of The Exorcist and how he'd been told by the Vatican that he'd become very close to the actual story of what had really happened in the real Exorcist story. And he was very interesting, and you know, he's passed away now, so I was really even luckier to go to that masterclass with him, and they played excerpts from his movies, and it was just, again, thrilling upon thrilling. And then I think I went back to my hotel again. After that, on my last night, I went to the Salle Buñuel, and I saw a Cannes Classique movie, which was called, I think, Terrore della Spazia, and it was a kind of Italian vampire movie. It was a very spoofy movie from the 60s, and I saw that and I really enjoyed it. It was great fun. And I think the following day I saw another film in the morning, and I walked around the Marché, which is where all the films are being sold. Now obviously I wasn't in a film that was in the Marché, I wasn't in the catalogue, and still it was wonderful to see it. I mean, you see films that are for sale from around the world, and I had a last cup of tea in the Brit Pavilion, a last look round the shops, and I got some mugs from the Cannes Film Festival or some souvenirs that I just treasured. And I finally went back to the Kyriad Hotel, got my suitcase, got the bus back to Nice. I didn't try and get a cab back to Nice because you can get a bus very cheaply, and it's, you know, it's much better if you're not in a hurry. I gave myself time, and I was so sad to leave, but I cannot tell you what a wonderful experience it was. I felt full of renewed ambition and determination to go ahead with my career as an actor, which had been quite difficult, you know, because as I've told you, I was getting a little older and everything had been rather delayed for me. But going to Cannes, it just fills you with adrenaline, the beauty of the hotels and the big movie posters. And I don't think I saw anyone famous up close, but I remember I went into one of the big hotels there and I saw like the Clint Eastwood suite just from the outside, and you know, it was just great. And the bus rumbled along to Nice, and I got a meal at Nice airport because I had some euros left and I had a meal. I was really hungry. I'd run out of my biscuits and things, and got checked in for my flight, and took the flight and went home. And I had my photographs. I mean, I didn't take film. I had photographs in my camera, and it was great to get home, because it is a little bit daunting to go to Cannes, because, you know, obviously you don't know what to expect. You don't know what everything is going to involve or exactly how things work, even if you read all about it. But I was so buoyed up with enthusiasm, and you know, it was just wonderful. I put my photos on my social media, and my agent was really pleased that I'd gone, and you know, that was all great. So I must say that I thank Rory O'Donnell, who gave me the information about applying to Cannes, because before this I didn't know about it. And I again thank Ray Brady and Anne Noth-Mizier, his wife, and for giving me the ticket and also supporting me and being such kind friends. And they encouraged me to go to Cannes, and it really meant a lot. And I'm just so happy that I got to go, and I recommend the Kyriad Hotel. And you know, just if you're not an actor or a filmmaker but you still want to go to the Cannes Film Festival, there are several accreditations that you can have. One is called, if you are a cinema lover, you can apply for that accreditation, and they give you, I think, a pass, like an accreditation for a part of the Cannes Film Festival, and you can just go, and you're actually given more tickets than someone like me would be, and you have all the joy of experiencing the Cannes Film Festival. And you can also apply for a scheme called 3 Days in Cannes, where they give you a pass for either the first or the last 3 days of Cannes, which are not the busiest time in the Cannes Film Festival, but you still can go to premieres, you still can have all the ambience and the fun of it. And if you are a film lover and you want to go to the Cannes Film Festival, I thoroughly recommend that you apply for either of those two passages, because it's again great, and the people I've spoken to were so happy that they did it. And yeah, I would say apply for it in February when the accreditations open. And be very careful when you fill out the forms, because you know, you have to be precise, and they will check out your background and stuff, and you have to send a photograph, I'm sure. And also I would say book your accommodation as early as you can, and also book your flights as early as you can, because they do get filled up. And sometimes I've gone to the Cannes Film Festival and they've overbooked the flight, so they've offered people to come off and take a later flight to the Cannes Film Festival that day, take a later flight to Nice. But I've never wanted to do that, although they give you compensation, because then you're going to miss some of your valuable time at Cannes. And who wants to do that? You want to go there. So I would say don't arrive on a Sunday evening if at all possible. Book your hotel in advance. I think you can, if you're a filmmaker or actor, you can get a last minute accreditation once you're at the festival, but you have to wait a long time in the queue to speak to them and argue with them about it. You have to pay a lot of money, and it's much easier to do it in advance when the accreditations open. So yes, you can go to Cannes if you're not in the film business. You just apply in time, as I say, get everything organised. And you do, if you want to go to premieres, you have to have an evening dress and acceptable shoes, like with a kitten heel. You can't wear any clumpy shoes or any sort of trainers or anything, God forbid. You have to have evening clothes and nice shoes, and with those things in place and your accreditation, you can enjoy the Cannes Film Festival and all of the amazing things that it can offer. So I don't know, I think maybe next time I'll try and talk about some other of my film festival experiences. I might talk about what happened after I went to Cannes, and maybe my second year going to Cannes, which I did go back the following year. And I really hope that you will join me for this. And I'm sorry this vlog is a day or so later than I said. I've been very busy with difficult problems at home, which I think I've got hold of now. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to my second vlog. Thank you for supporting my first vlog if you watched it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I totally recommend the Cannes Film Festival to anybody. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.